Welcome to Tech Simplified, and my name is Sly Gittins, and I'm continuing the Women in Tech series. And I have a dynamic lady. Her name is Pujitha. She works at Microsoft with me, and her story is gonna rock your world. So Pujitha, would you mind just letting my audience know a little bit more about yourself and just share a little bit more how you got started?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So first of all, thank you, Sly, for having me here. It really means a lot to just be able to share my story. So thank you. Who am I? Well, currently I'm at Microsoft. I'm a technical program manager. So I'm essentially responsible for making sure customer workloads are up and running on Azure. So we have so many different customers and increasing at that who leverage Azure. And so my main responsibility is just making sure that, even if there are disruptions, that they're aware of that and are able to mitigate as needed. But that's really something that gets me excited. So far, I've been with the same team, I think, since I joined Azure, or even a professional full-time job. So it's been, I think, about 5 years since I've joined the team, which is awesome. And I love every moment of being in this team, specifically because of the culture. I feel so included, and everybody's really open to growth and changes and feedback, which I think is really critical, or something that I look out for when I'm, looking at, team culture and things like that. But even beyond that, I did my bachelor's from Purdue. So I did my bachelor's in computer engineering from Purdue University. I graduated in 2018, and that's when I joined Microsoft full-time as a program manager. Even before that, I had interned at Microsoft, and so that's really where my journey began with Microsoft. To go even further, I was in college, first of all, freshman year. I really thought I was going to do my master's and really get into academia, because that's the family that I come from. They're all engineers, surprise, surprise, but they're all engineers. And so for me, it was just, that was a natural path. But then the more I got into my college life and my degree, I just realized some of the things that I did not like, which was a lot of hardware knowledge, coding, day in and day out really didn't excite me as much. But what did excite me was, looking at different system interactions and components and driving, progress and talking with people, essentially being that medium between engineering conversations and people conversations. And that's really where I found my sweet spot. So that's why I became a program manager, and here I am.
Yeah, that is a phenomenal story. Your career journey is, I know it's just the beginning, it's still being written, but it's pretty cool. I guess this goes right into my next question is, I know you're a program manager, I know you're loving the role, but really what excites you? What's your passion?
Right. That's such a deep, but such a needed question that, I realized the first time I asked myself that was really in my junior year in college, which is crazy to think, right? Because I went all the way until then just thinking I'm going to be a computer engineer, I'm going to be a dev. But really in junior year, when, all of my courses started catching up with me, and my realization that after college, hey, you have to do a real job, and do you want to do this? And the first thing that I asked myself is, what is it really that I wanted to do? And the first thing that came to mind was, I really wanted to influence. I really want to be part of some of the deep conversations in terms of the direction that this technology and this field is going to take. And for me, as a program manager, the reason I am passionate about this job is because my day comprises of being part of those technical conversations, understanding why technology is where it is, the improvements that we can make, but also leveraging that data, that knowledge, and taking business decisions. So for me, what excites me is leveraging data, looking at technology, being part of these conversations, but at the same time being on the business side of things, influencing people, being a leader in spaces where, I get to help people, empower them in meeting their own needs. I think that makes me really happy. But having technology in the center of it is really, I think, what gets me. And also that's part of my skill set, right? It's not just my passion, but I also find myself being good at it in a way. So that makes me like it even more, to be very honest. And so this job is something which I came across by chance. I did not know this was even a role that was possible. And so for me, growing up, being part of my experience at Purdue as well, it was just, oh, you have to be a developer. And that just seemed so boring to me because I knew that I wasn't enough to be that as well. And I knew I wasn't going to be good at that as well. So when I heard that there was this job, which was that sweet spot, I was like, that's me. That sounds exactly like what I want to do. So this is what excites me.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I think you said something that was pretty that resonates well with the audience, at least for myself, is the awareness of these jobs are here. I remember our first time in college, I thought I was going to be a network engineer. I actually thought I was going to be a developer also. I started off as computer science and I hated it. I'm like, oh my God, like what I'm going to do now, like for my degree, right? I'm like, this is not for me. I do not find enjoyment out of it. What's the next move? So I ended up switching to business. That was in my sophomore year, going into my junior year. I'm like, all right, but business is too broad, man. Like, can't just graduate with a degree in business. What do you do with that? A business administration degree, right? So I ended up pairing it with marketing and IT. I'm like, well, those are still too broad, right? Marketing and IT are just huge fields. What I'm going to be doing in marketing or IT, So I'm like, telecommunications was one of my classes, and I realized I just instantly hit it off with telecommunications. I like read the book back and forth for fun. I used to configure routers when I was younger. I'm like, all right, maybe I got something here. So then I did an internship after school. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be a network engineer. That's gonna be my job. I'm gonna love it. Absolutely hated it. I'm like, well, I like learning about it, but being in the server room by myself, I didn't like it because I'm a little bit more of an extrovert. I want to talk to people because that brings me energy. But I say that to say is if I knew a sales engineering role was there or a pre-sales engineering role or like a partner technology strategist, I didn't even know that role even existed. Those skills was like a blend of my technical skill set, my marketing skill set, but also the strategy, because I was looking at ways to solve problems, and this is the way I just did it. And I stand out here because if I was a developer, I'd probably been okay. But I never would have loved it. So I probably wouldn't have spent the time to get really good at it. And you know how you get into the zone when you just love something and enjoy it, you can spend hours learning about it. Right. So I think I'm glad that you share that. And I'm happy that you had the courage to make that pivot, because I can't imagine having a whole entire family of engineers and you say, you know what, I want to do that, family. I want to do something over here. Then I'm like, well, is that sales? Is that sales? Like, what is a program manager?
Oh, yeah.
We don't,
So I got those questions so often. To even step back a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I had interviewed with Microsoft for a developer position in my junior year, and then I was called to interview at the headquarters, which is Redmond. And so when I went there, they mistakenly offered me a PM interview.
Yeah.
And so until then, I didn't really know. They asked me as they were interviewing, initially, hey, do you want to be a PM or dev? And I was like, I don't know what the PM thing is. So yes, dev. But then when I reached there and they interviewed for me for a PM position, it just seemed so natural. The way we had to think and answer and think about success, customer experience, but also tie in the engineering background. So that's when I really fell into this space. And then my internship, though, I didn't enjoy it. I did not enjoy my internship at all. I thought I was not doing as impactful work as I really thought I would be doing. And so I really was discouraged from pursuing this position, especially as I was speaking with my family and saying, hey, this is what I do. And they went, oh, really, that's why you're doing your computer engineering degree? So I definitely got those questions. But then that was sort of my encouragement in really identifying where is the space that I can make that impact. And I was told at the time that Azure is really the place to be. It's fast-paced. It's a growing space as well. So that's going to give me the opportunity to be part of the beginning and learn as well as I go and continue to learn. And there's so much growth and advancement and opportunities and expansion of scope as well. And so I just blast emailed all the engineering managers in Azure and said, hey, I'm graduating. I'm looking for a full-time, can I please speak with you? And so then when I did get the job, which is the same team I'm with right now, when I entered, I had no idea what the cloud was. I just thought it was something which people were talking about, but no idea. And so again, I just stepped into this role and then it really clicked. And I knew there was more to it than what I faced during my internship. And I'm glad I explored this further.
And I commend you to having the courage to keep going there and to, you took the advice of your family, right? But you didn't let that deter you for trying something new, right? So, and that takes a lot of courage to do that. So I applaud you for that. And I'm excited in where your career is going to go. And this goes kind of nicely into my next question. So what has been your experience being a woman in STEM? What would you like to share? Like, how was it having the classes in Purdue? How is it now as a PM at Microsoft? Would you mind sharing some of your experiences?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, nobody really prepares you for college, and I really wish they did. Going into college, I did not expect such disparity, to be very honest with you. I was in classes where it was just guys, and it was just guys. And, usually when you're in a computer engineering degree, it's a lot of projects, right? Just as an example, when there's a class of 60 guys and like 3 girls, it's hard to really find groups. And I wanted to stay away from, I'm a girl, so I'm going to partner with girls. Like, that's not really productive, right? I want to be with people I share the same energy with, and I'm friends with, and I really want to enjoy that project. But it really starts at, hey, I'm struggling to find partners to do projects with. It really starts there. And it's also about, sometimes guys feel comfortable in, partnering with each other. I get it. But at the same time, then what about all the women in the class, right? So it was a lot of feelings of being left out. And so I struggled with it for sure. So now that I look back at my college life, I know that it would have been so much easier if I found a lot of people like me. But more so, I found it really hard to make lasting friendships in college because computer engineering is really consuming, right? Like, I would have loved to go out to the bars, like Thursday night, Friday night with my friends. I would have loved to do that, but it was really lab work. I was at, all the project meetings and labs all the nights. And I wasn't able to make that connection or find the people, who are, my tribe or things like that, because there were just no people like me in my degree. And I think back and I go, that's exactly what's deterring a lot of women from entering STEM, is just that inability of finding people like themselves and having that support system, which I know I lacked. But at the same time, I look back and I think, wow, that gave me the strength to, no matter what happens, I know I have confidence in myself that I'm going to get through it. I have now the ability to speak with people I may not share the same connection with, but I'm able to speak with different people, different backgrounds, different stories. And so that's the ability that instilled in me. And when I joined Microsoft full-time, it was such a breath of fresh air, especially as, when I joined this team, it's almost like 50-50, right? I love having conversations with everybody, and I get that here. And so almost my experience at Microsoft is just so much better, and, it's just tremendously better, I should say. And so I'm enjoying this, and I wish I had this experience in college. And that's why I'm so passionate about just making sure that we get that equality, more so in terms of giving access to women, with resources to, STEM. What does it really mean to be part of this? And giving them that education early on, that it's not something scary. The more you do it, the more people like you would do it. And so, yeah, I'm just really passionate about it. Just grassroots movements where you go into high schools and really talk about STEM, having people do fun things, because science is fun. Yep. It's not something nerdy and lame, right? Like, we want to get away from that. And so, yeah, that's been my experience. I wish it was different, but I know it's going to change over time.
No, that's I can definitely see the strength that you possess now. So I can relate to that story a little bit. Because even when I went to University of Buffalo, it's mostly men, 100%. It's probably like 90% men in the tech classes I was in.
Yeah.
And then I was pretty sure the only Black person there. So it was hard to connect, right? You didn't really have the tribe, unless when I went to my business classes, you had some, some more people that looked like myself. So it was times that, I had to come out my shell, how to make new friends, learn new experience, how to talk, how to get out my comfort zone. So yeah, it would have been cool to have a little bit more diversity, probably. Yeah. But at the same time, it made it easier to just to talk to anyone, right? To form a relationship with you, to understand that what you just said, right? To have that ability to kind of say, like, you know what, I don't understand how it felt to be the only lady in the room or one of the only ladies in the room, but I can see how that can be, intimidated, because even me being a male, if it's all males, we can find something to gel about. So even though our color might be different, we might like football, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, or it might be something easier for us to connect to because that similarity bias. And that's one thing I do like at Microsoft. It's so easy to connect, find your tribe of like-minded people, whether the race, color, creed, it's pretty cool. So thank you for sharing that and having the courage to do that. And if you're out there and if you're dealing with that right now, reach out, try to, build friends on social media if you can. If you can't, make sure to keep telling yourself why you're doing this and the outcome you want to have. And also know if you get into that point, reach out and find someone that you can talk to, right? Myself is a LinkedIn request away. I know Pujitha is also a LinkedIn request away. Reach out to if you ever get into that point, right? So one thing that I want to change the tone, because it's something I love to brighten up the mood is when a fellow curator is on the phone or on the podcast. I got to talk about what you're doing. And I know you got a pretty cool podcast that you want to promote. So go ahead and talk about it. Let the audience know where they can find out what you're talking about. And can you share what's the goal of your podcast?
So to set some context, right? Something that I'm really passionate about is, of course, women in STEM and all of that, but just giving courage to people and to help them find relatable content. And exactly like this, right? When people hear more people like themselves speak up, it feels more normalized to go through something and it just becomes easier to handle. And so my dream is really to have a podcast where it's, I don't want to constrict it to its early in career professionals, but it's just people in my age group or in my phase in life, I should say, just hearing about some of the fun stuff that I come across at work, YouTube, also hearing from some of the folks, during the pandemic who've had to handle like 4 kids barging in on their meetings. I mean, the number of cats I've seen walk over keyboards in Teams meeting has been, just such numerous situations. And I just want to hear more of that. I think the current narrative of, hustle until you make it or break it, I think it's getting to a point where it's almost now looked down upon if you're not ambitious or not doing crazy things every day. And now I just want to give out relatable, happy content that you can listen in during lunch. So that's really where I'm coming in from. And that's my goal, where it's just a diverse set of people talking about their experiences and also humanizing leadership, right? Sometimes I want to know if my CVP has a cat, I want to know what his puppy's name is. I think those are the sort of conversations I want to have. But before I get to that, something I wanted to do was actually connect with people, build a network, and identify how is it that I want to conduct my podcast and my content. So currently I'm working with Pavna Bartholf. So she is the Chief Digital Officer as well as part of the global strategy here at Microsoft. And she has a podcast called Seat at the Table, which now I'm driving and helping her produce, because that point of that is self-advocacy. And it's not restricted to just early in career or, you're later in your career as well. You've made it to the other side, if you will. But this podcast is more so for how do you speak up, right? Like, what are the tools that you need to just speak up and be honest with yourself? How do you advocate for yourself? And how can you be vulnerable with other people without feeling ashamed of sorts? And so that's the podcast. It's supposed to release on May 4th. And so we're working very hard to do that. And so I'm learning all the things that's required to go into a podcast. And I've learned that that's a lot. It's not as easy as hitting a record button. That's what I've learned. So I'm going to go through this exercise with Pavna, learn as much as I can, and then I'm going to get my podcast up and going. So that's the plan.
That's phenomenal. And make sure, please, to send me the link title.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to make sure to put it in the show notes for the podcast, on YouTube, on the website, on LinkedIn. Everyone need to know about that. I'm going to start watching it once it comes out.
Yes.
It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to watch it and then consume it.
Yeah.
So I know I don't want this interview to end, because I felt like we really connected. We really had a passionate conversation. But before we do leave, how can the audience contact you?
As you said, LinkedIn, I'm just a request away. I'm just a message away. So please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you just want to chat as well, or give me ideas for my podcast that I'm trying to build up. I need some encouragement, so say hi. And if you are, in a college classroom with like 70 men and are kind of lost, or not even just men, just people you don't connect with, say hi, and I'm happy to chat with you and be your friend through that. So just message me and you can find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And thank you so much for being here. It was an honor interviewing you. And I'm so excited to eventually to do part 2, because I already know you're going to tackle bigger things in your career. And again, Sly Gittins and Pujitha are out. Peace.